Good morning, dear friends. So welcome to the Conscious Living virtual meeting. We are very, very happy that you could join us. And we have this space for us to be connected and study and pray together. So we are going to start our morning reading a passage from the book, Our Daily Bread. The number is 39, Invitation to the Good. But when you are invited, go. Jesus said in Luke 14:10, in all ages, the good is the divine fountain capable of providing us with immortal values. Mindful individuals, we have noticed that the entire period of childhood consists of a string of appeals to the sublime fountainhead. The sacred invitation is repeated year after year. It comes to us by way of our loving parents, our academic mentors, wholesome reading material, religious sentiments, and ordinary friends. However, few minds reach adolescence with their attention set on the lofty calling. Most people listen to the demands of their lower nature and neglect their precious obligations. The appeal persists nonetheless. Here, it might be a friendly book silently revealing the truth. There, it might be a generous friend who insists on pointing out the importance of enlightening realities of life. Rebellious persons, however, even during the full adulthood, usually laugh unconsciously at such appeals. Nevertheless, whether they like it or not, they are heading for the natural disenchantments that impose more balanced thoughts. In Jesus' gospel, the invitation to good is clothed in eternal clarity. By heeding it, we can proceed towards an uninterrupted encounter with our Father. If the Christian trumpet has reached your ears, accept its appeal without wavering. Do not wait for the pinprick of necessity. During the storm, it becomes ever more difficult to see the port. The majority of our brothers and sisters on earth make their way towards God under the compulsion of pain. Therefore, do not wait for the lash of the darkness when you can calmly follow the clear path of love. So, with this beautiful invitation for us, the goodness, I invite everyone to join us in initial prayer. Our Heavenly Father, we are so thankful that we have this space, we have this gospel, we have this family, this spiritual family with us, so we can praise you together and ask the protection of our Jesus, mentor and guide, for the morning and the studies today. We are so thankful that we have the opportunity to listen to the lessons so we can empower ourselves to find the goodness in every moment in our life, that we have eyes to see the goodness in everyone, in all the situations. So guiding us through the lessons so we can learn to look for the goodness in a calm way. Today in particular, we pray for our mentors to support our dear friend Lina that comes so kindly to share her studies with us. Help her, giving her the intuition to share her studies from her heart to our heart with ease and joy. Thank you, and so be it. So we are going to initiate our study today. So we are very, very happy to invite our friend Lina from Lina Kabaishaki. I don't know how to say very well. From the center that our house friend Kaya CRF that is going to do the talking for us. So welcome, my friend. So here we have our study.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Abigail, for having us. It's such a pleasure to be here with you today. So, good morning, everyone, or good morning, good afternoon, good evening in I guess through this virtual world nowadays, we can meet each other in different times anywhere in the world. But thank you so much for having me. We would like to share with you a study that we did in our center, and this is about a passage in the Gospel, chapter 24, that specifically says the healthy do not need a doctor. I guess we are going through a time where many questions about health, about how to deal with our daily lives nowadays is coming to mind, and hopefully this study will help us through finding some answers. Right? This is we're going to start here trying to explore a little bit the ideas of health, illness, and what brings the balance to going away, heading away from sickness, from illness towards health. So we're going to start talking about health a little bit. If we imagine us in the material dimension, in the physical world, what is health for us, right? According to the World Health Organization, WHO, they define health as a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. So the World Health Organization was created in 1948, right after the end of Second World War, and they used to define health as the state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being. And then later on, in 2005, they added the second part, not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. And why did they? Let's think about a little bit about this definition, right? Today, some people will define health as absence of disease or impairment. Others will define it as the state that allows the individual to adequately cope with the demands of daily life, and this not necessarily means that we are free of illness or diseases in the physical body. And the third one is a state of balance that an individual has established in within himself, inside himself, and between himself and others in society, that has this balance, this harmony, independent of if they are sick, if they have an illness, if they present a physical illness or not. So for the first and the second, we would need a doctor to examine us and basically declare that there is no disease. But if we think about it, many of these diseases, with the development and the progress of diagnosis methods, yesterday I was not sick, or in the morning I was not sick, but because there is a new type of exam or a more evolved type of machine that can detect imbalances in my body, I may now be declared sick or ill, right? So this can change according to the methods of diagnosis. Now, there are other people that have abnormalities, like you can see that there's damages in tissues, but they don't present any symptoms. There's no, they don't feel ill, they don't show anything. And what like COVID-19 to show something, to prove to us that can happen, right? Some people are completely asymptomatic and they still have the virus, and they are a carrier. They can spread the disease, and some of us are getting the worst of it, becoming losing the lungs, lose the force to breathe. Some of us are being put in respirator and ventilators, and some of us are passing away with the disease. Now, when we think about Chico Xavier, Francisco Cândido Xavier, he was this medium in Brazil. He had so many problems in his physical body. He had heart problems with a lot of pain. He had eye problems with pain and becoming basically blind from one eye. But thinking about as a person, as a healthy person, one man who helped so many people, who worked long hours. He worked during the whole day to pay for his bills, and then after that he would write books. He would see people in the Spiritist Center. He would process healing, process writing messages from the spiritual realm. So we see how healthy this man actually was, beyond his problems with his physical body, right? So there are other changes in the body tissues that we see, right? But health would be in a dimension where human existence is fine, right? We live our lives in balance, besides regardless the presence of these illnesses. So another point involving health is the social well-being. So imagine a doctor who prescribes a medication that a person needs to take, and they don't have money because they're out of job, they lost their job, they don't have work, they don't have money, and they cannot afford this medication. So it's an illness, it's a disease, but as this is a lack of ease on top of the disease, of the physical disease. So we're going to notice that there are many layers to when we talk about health, right? When we start studying the Spiritist doctrine, we are going to see ourselves as spirits, right? We learn that we are spirits having this temporary experience in the physical world, in the physical dimension. And we're going to have to look into other ways to define health now. And Emmanuel, who was the mentor for Francisco Cândido Xavier, on the book that is called The Consoler, written by Francisco Cândido Xavier in 1941, he's going to define health as the perfect harmony of the soul, the perfect balance of the soul. And he's going to say that in order for us to achieve this perfect harmony of the soul, many times we will need illnesses and transitory deficiencies in the physical body on earth. So we have to think a little bit about it, and we have to think about all the studies that we've been processing, that we've been doing throughout our learning in the Spiritism, to try to understand what does he really mean about it. And when we work with the healing, working with people that come to us in the Spiritist Center, looking for a spiritual treatment, looking for help in healing their ailments, we're going to see that a lot of people, they bring this peace and resignation and serenity in dealing with some of their illnesses in the physical body that actually heals their spirit, that actually brings them the peace that they didn't have when they were not sick. A lot of them go through diseases, temporary diseases that completely transform them, completely change the way they deal with life, change their behaviors, change their way of thinking, and the way how they react to a lot of things, taking this disease, taking this illness as a message or as a way for them to transform themselves and actually heal the causes of this illness that came from their spiritual body, right? So if we think that we are just temporarily going through this incarnation, so Lena is Lena for a temporary time, for a few years, but the spirit that is for a moment now, Lena knows a lot better, has lived a lot, many other lives. This is going to be this physical body that today we have is serving actually as a filter for my spiritual body. As an example for this that we are talking about, André Luiz, through the writing of Francisco Cândido Xavier, also has many books, and I know you guys study his books there. But in one of them specifically, that is called Between Heaven and Earth, he tells a story of a spirit there. One of the characters there is he had committed in a past life. He had committed suicide. He tried first with poison, and he was not capable to commit suicide there. But he damages his throat, and then he throws himself in a river and drowns. So in the spiritual realm, he presents a sore on his throat because he damaged the force center that controls that area by him consciously trying to commit suicide, right? So what happens is he needs to come back in other bodies. He reincarnates another time, having this problem in this force center, which will cause him to be extremely sensitive to diseases that will attack this part of his body. They will explain there. The mentor in that book will explain that the fact that that the spirit is having these diseases will bring his attention to this area and will make him become more aware and more careful and value the harmony of that area, the energy in that area, helping him in the healing process. So sometimes we're going to learn that our physical diseases may be the healing process that our spiritual body needs in order to heal. So we're going to start seeing, as spirits, we will see our physical lives and the things that happen in our physical dimension in a different way. That sometimes it can be the opposite of what we incarnated want for ourselves, right? We want the complete physical and body well-being. We are not thinking about the spiritual well-being yet, most of the time, right? Now we're going to go. I told you that this passage of the healthy do not need a doctor. This is part of this chapter 24 in the Gospel according to Spiritism. The actual chapter, it's called Do Not Hide the Light Under a Bushel. And I would like to just go over the structure of this chapter, because I think it will be interesting for us to understand what Jesus meant about the healthy do not need a doctor. So if we think about the light, he starts the chapter talking about the light. And if we go back to the Spirit's book, when Kardec asks the Spirit, who was the most perfect spirit that came to us on this planet that we can use as a guide and model? And the spirits will tell us that it was Jesus, right? See Jesus as the guide and model. So in this picture here that I brought for us, I wanted to bring this idea that Jesus is the sun, the light that is the fountain of energy for our spiritual planet, for our spiritual dimension in this time that we are living in. And under him, in this ladder of hierarchical evolution, we see all these spirits that are under him working in this process of with us, and us still also being part of this chain of evolutionary spirits on this trajectory to perfection. We are also here in this process of bringing our light, right? And one way of healing is bringing light to our shadows, to our hidden portions of fears, bad habits, or things that we've been doing for such a long time that we are seeing consequences today. So how to work with it, right? And Jesus will bring these therapies for us. And one way that he taught us was through the parables, right? And one question that we see in the gospel is, wasn't Jesus hiding his light when he taught through parables? And Jesus himself will bring us this answer. He's going to tell us, to the disciples, he's going to talk clearly, but to the masses, he needs to speak in parables, in stories, because we still do not have enough skills, capacity, intelligence, understanding, and knowledge to understand the whole truth that he was bringing. So it was so much light that when you bring too much light, we can blind the person. And the same way, if you bring so much knowledge at once to a group of people that is not ready to understand, you may create more confusion than clarifying the doubts. It's like a teacher who comes to a kindergarten class. We have to prepare the lessons accordingly, right? We're going to start with the ABCs and not making them read the whole book at once when they don't even understand the letters. So we understand this, that it was actually coming from his profound knowledge of understanding the level that we were at that time that he came. It shows a lot of love and respect for us at the time, and in bringing the teachings in a way that we could deal with and understand at the time. Another question that he puts there, another point that he puts there, bring the lessons to the Jews first. So the Jewish at the time, they already understood. They already understood that there was only one God. They had this religion that explained to them that there was only one God. And they also had the prophets that had told them throughout time about all this coming of the Messiah, how the Messiah would come and bring For them at the time, we would say the salvation, right? But we today understand the salvation as the teaching for us to know ourselves and find ourselves the strength, the knowledge, and the love to follow His guidance, to follow the model that He created for us. And then comes the part that He says the healthy do not need a doctor. And then He's going to, where we are going to go deeper today. And then He was going to give these therapies, the therapies for caring, faith, and carrying your cross, right? Therapies for healing, therapies for dealing with our diseases and illness. So going through this topic about the healthy do not need a doctor, we went through some studies of other texts that are from Emmanuel. One of them is from this book, The Way, the Truth, and the Life. And he's going to talk about the Banquet of Publicans. And the reason is because Jesus used this term, this sentence, the healthy do not need a doctor, in this situation here that is told to us, that is described in the Gospel of Matthew, on chapter 9, verses 10 to 12. So the Pharisees come right after Jesus invites Levi or Matthew to come follow him. Matthew gives this banquet at his home to all the publicans and all his friends, all the sinners, and Jesus is there eating with everybody. And the Pharisees that were following him, Pharisees were the doctor of the laws, were Jewish doctor of the laws, and they back then in the law of Moses, the taxes were considered a sin. Paying taxes were considered sin. So they had this big problem with the Romans charging them these taxes, and they were very against it. And the publicans were Jewish, that could be Jewish or not, but they were Jewish, and they would collect taxes. They would work for the Romans, collecting taxes from the other people. At that time, we can imagine how these publicans were viewed. They were not seen as part of the. They were the outcasts, right? They were considered sinners. They were considered out of their tribe, right? Their group. I guess we can bring this to our daily lives today, right? What we saw over these past days, with all the violence, with all the on the news, we've been seeing how people are reacting through to prejudice, to being outcast, to being separated, being considered not part of. What type of reactions we are seeing or we have in ourselves, right? And we're going to talk a little bit about that disease later in the next slides. So the Pharisees were always controlling people, controlling Jesus too with his teachings, in terms of why is your master, he's asking the apostles, why is your master eating with publicans and sinners? Remember that there were a lot of rules and norms that the Jews were supposed to follow based on the law of Moses. There was a special way of cleaning. There were types of food that you could eat and other that were considered unclean. You were not supposed to share the food with other people that were considered sinners. The publicans were one group that was not allowed to eat with them. So this shows a Jesus, this shows a Christ that is always including people, that is very inclusive. He holds to everybody who wants, who looks or wishes for his spiritual nourishment, for the excellence of his spiritual nourish, is always open. He's always ready to share with us, right? He's always ready to teach us when we invite him to come. And Emmanuel will also say that anytime, in any situation, he's ready to tend to the souls that look for him, that ask for his help. And he continues serving this divine table. But the time has come for the diners to take advantage of this concession. It has come, the time has come for us to really understand and really capture these offerings, this nourishment that Jesus has been bringing to us all the time. There is no limitation. There is no, you are not allowed to, you are not part of the group, you are not deserving. There is never a question about that. So he's always ready to share it with us. Now we're still bringing our souls, these diseases, right? These disharmonies. And Emmanuel is going to list and talk to us about some of them. He's going to talk about the extremes of corrections. We are so proud. We think we know so much. We think, like the Pharisees, we know what the law says. So you need to do what is correct, right? An extreme to remove a group or a person from your table just because that's what is correct or what I think is correct. The extremes of superiority, selfishness, vanity, false virtue, anger, ignorance, hate, desperation. These are all feelings and ways that we bring the balance. We take the balance out of equilibrium because we bring all that in us, right? So we are always talking about ourselves and what are the soul therapies that Jesus brings to us. For selfishness, we are still, the Spirit tells us in the Spirit book that we're still going through a lot of battles to control our selfishness and our pride. This is at this stage of evolution where we are living now. These are the biggest problems for us in the planet. If we think about selfishness, what is the medication that Jesus gave us? So he brings us the golden rule, right? Do to others what you would have them do to you. So until then, the law of Moses would bring, do not do to others what you wouldn't like them to do to you. And then Jesus comes bringing the positive side of it. Go do what, be charitable, be the one who will be caring, be honest, bring the virtues out of yourself that you would like other people to use to you, right? So it's a paradigm shift when you go from don't do to do, right? It's come out of your paralysis and come live and do what you would like people to do to you. Another disease is anger. Anger is this. We joke with when we were studying. Sometimes there is this dragon that comes from inside us, right? Saying things, doing things that we scare ourselves. Sometimes we don't even know that we have that inside. And when somebody just presses the wrong button or just says something in a way that we perceive that is brings this anger out of us. And for that, the medication that Jesus brings in your patience, you will possess your souls. And all these, these verses are all in the New Testament. So when he talks about patience, you will control yourself, right? You will possess yourself. You will be able to um, hold on that dragon that wants to come out before it causes damages. So many words we say, so many actions that we do that at the end uh, it may take us centuries, lifetimes to bring it back, to correct. So how many times we're gonna waste just because of 1 minute that we lost it, 1 second that we just lost our patience, lost our control, and said something that hurt somebody, that will create such a big mess that we're going to have to repair later on. Revolt is another disease of the soul. And the medication that Jesus will bring us, those who humble themselves will be exalted. So humility is the first step, right, for us to learn something. Because if we don't have the humility to know that there is so much still that I need to learn, what room is there for us to understand anything that is different, that is more, that will bring us some understanding or some knowledge that we may be missing at that time. So bring bringing this knowledge, right? This understanding who we are, the know thyself, understanding how much I can do and how much I can't. Bring ourselves to our position, bring ourselves to who exactly am I? Am I capable of doing this? Then I should go step up and offer myself to do it. If I know that I'm not, okay, what is it that I need to learn? What skills, what capacity can I increase in order for me to become capable of, right? So revolting against not being chosen, revolting against the disease that is the physical disease that I'm living now, revolting against my reality today. What good can it bring to me, right? If I have the serenity to learn, just observe, see what's happening, and becoming conscious that the consequences that I live, of the choices that I made before, are bringing this reality to me today, then it gives me the pointers to, okay, what do I need to do now? Where do I need to change in order to start sowing new seeds, better seeds for tomorrow? Another disease that we have that Emmanuel talks about is false virtue. And Jesus brings this medication, the greatest will be servant. And that brings us to the Last Supper, where all those disciples, and these we are talking men that have been following him for 3 years, very closely, being some of them sharing the same home, the same boat, the same road, right? Traveling and listening and seeing these men preaching. And they were still at the Last Supper. They were discussing who is the greatest, who is going to sit at the right, on the right or the left. And then he takes his tunic, Jesus takes his tunic off, singes himself with the towel, and start washing their feet, right? Showing in his action that the biggest one, and the title of master is the one that he accepted. So the master came to serve. And that brings us also to Paul of Tarsus. Paul says, I received so much from above. All the time I've received help. I receive inspiration. I received this opportunity to get closer to the gospel, to the teachings of the Master. I feel like I owe people, I owe everyone from myself to be there, to teach them, to bring this good news to everyone. So I guess the higher, the more elevated the spirit is, the more evolved the spirit is, the more he understands the it's almost like a duty for them to give some of what they're receiving, some of the gifts that they are receiving. So going back to that picture where we see the ladder of evolution, that's the idea that I wanted to bring. It's putting ourselves in the right step, right? Receiving and giving, receiving and flowing, being part of the flow of giving these gifts that we are receiving every day. So yes, the greatest will become the one who serves, will become the servants. So in a way, we who know less are creditors of the one who know more, who love more. Right? Another big disease is hate. So the medication, love your enemies. That was a huge game changer that Jesus' lessons come. Because until then we had this teaching that love others like you love yourself. But in that we may have understood that love others, the closest one to us, the ones that I consider family, the ones that I like, the ones that share the same ideas. But when Jesus comes and say, love your enemies, then we all of a sudden we have a completely picture, a different picture in front of us, saying that yes, you're that one that you hate, that used to hate, you were supposed to love. And I guess it changes our way of thinking, it changes our way of feeling, right? The ignorance, this big thing that we still have in us, all of us, because there is so much to learn, there is so much we don't know. And as we go through our experiences and learn, Jesus will bring this medication. The truth will set you free, and the truth of love, the truth of life is based on cooperation, the truth that will make us stronger performers in life, right? The truth that will alleviate us from all this heaviness, this heavy things that we've been carrying through so many lives, that will slowly breaking the chains, breaking the jails that we ourselves create with our lack of knowledge, with our ignorance. If we are feeling offended, we have this disease of feeling offended, Jesus will tell us forgive. Forgive always. Forgive everyone all the time. If it's the same person doing the same, provoking the same pain, the same way, how many times should you forgive? 70 times 7, right? There is also a liberation that happens when we forgive. We discuss this forgiveness for such a long time, and we would think that person that did this horrible thing, they don't deserve forgiveness, and we don't realize that we are the ones who are carrying these chains, who are chaining ourselves to that pain, because that person may not even know that they caused this pain on us. They are living their lives, they follow their path. Later on, maybe one day when they are prepared, they will understand and they will see what they caused and the pain they caused. But at this moment, the only person who is in chains now is ourselves. So when we forgive, we are actually opening our own cage. It's not the others. It has nothing to do with the other person who caused it, deserving or not. Just forgiveness is basically the law. It's part of the law, right? If we don't forgive, we ourselves carry this weight on us that will, I don't know for how many lifetimes, I don't know for how long it will take for us to make peace with ourselves. If we are slandered, if we are in a situation where we are slandered, and Jesus will tell us, pray for those who persecute you, pray for those who are causing this. One thing that we start to understand when we study the doctrine, we are all linked together. We are all one, and the energy that permeates everything, the breath of God, right, or what we call the universal fluid, cosmic fluid. It involves everybody. It links everybody. When we cause a damage, the first person that is being affected is ourselves. We are creating a damage in us first. We may think a very heavy, poisonous thought that may or may not affect the person towards we are directing that. It may affect if the person is linked in that same wavelength. But if the person is not is in a different sphere, is in a different frequency, that hate, that thought that the damaging thought that started on us, it will not affect them, but it will affect us. It will always affect the first thinker, which is us, right? So that's why we are the ones responsible for changing the frequency. We are the ones responsible for changing the environment, the spiritual environment around us, because we are the ones who are thinking first. If our soul is going through a moment of uncertainty, and with this, I think today, who isn't? Who is the soul that is not living a moment of uncertainty? And Jesus will say, deny yourself, take up your cross and follow him. So we're going to have to start, getting out of ourselves. We are all of a sudden have to realize that we are not the center of the universe anymore. Take up our cross, and this cross, each one of us will know what it is. I'm going to have to control my anger. I'm going to have to work on my patience. I'm going to have to work with my prejudices. I'm going to have to work on my vices, being whatever they are. I'm going to have to control my mouth, whatever I say, the way I act. All these things are crosses that we have to carry. These are our journey, our past journey that we've been bringing ourselves until today, and the consequences that we can deal with today are being brought to us. Could be the person who is quarantined with us. It could be the person who cannot quarantine with us, that has to be in the front lines. And it could be one big questions that we've been bringing through us, and we are now having the time and the ways to sit with us and really look inside and look at the fear and ask, okay, what are you afraid of? Are you afraid of, is it death, or is it living? Is it living with the disease, or is it not having the disease? So these are questions that each one of us will have to answer, right? We'll have to get to know our own hearts. Now, Emmanuel is going to also talk about extremes, right? Everything that gets out of the center of the harmony is either too much or too little. It will create an imbalance. It will create an imbalance in us. It will create an imbalance in our environment. We talked about the extreme of correction. He says it comes from being hard-hearted. So if we think that, if we look at the Pharisees, if we think that the person who takes or who thinks that another one is better off or worse off, we may be removing them or not granting access to ourselves. We are being hard-hearted, and the medication for that is mercy, right? Opening our hearts for what would we do if we were in that situation? Would we be doing any better? What would my response be if my son or my daughter had been a victim in that situation? Would I be able to open my heart for these people who did this? So questions that bring us to our center, to our harmony. The extreme of kindness. Can we be excessively pleasing? Yes, we can. And that brings the vigilance. The medication for that Jesus brings is vigilance. Be vigilant and pray. Observe. In Mark, he says, observe, be vigilant, and pray for a connection. This is I guess, as sometimes as parents, we may give too much, right, or protect too much. And when we look at nature, when the kids are ready to fly, the birds are ready to fly, the mother bird just throw it out of the nest and just open your wings and fly. It gives that nudge to and also they have this faith, right? This faith in nature, this faith that things will work out. So they have this instinct of letting them go. And when reason comes in, when we become humans and we have this reason, and we have our fears, we try to, sometimes our fears blind us and we become way too protective, excessively. We don't want this. We don't want to hurt. We don't want to say it in a forceful way, or show the truth in a painful way. And sometimes that can be very disruptive to the growth of the other spirit, right? Overprotection. The extreme of superiority, and this comes from our pride. What is the medication for pride? Humility. Again, not the humility of, I'm not good enough, or I cannot do anything. No, it's the humility of know who you are, know what you're capable of, knowing your skills and what needs to be developed. And whatever we can do, we got to start doing now. Now is the time. And whatever we cannot do, now is the time to start learning what is needed in order to do it. Time is very precious, right? We say as spirits, we have eternity to learn. But this moment of life here in this physical world, this incarnation that we are living, time is very, very precious now. taking advantage of the people who are around us, the family, friends, the opportunities that we are being given now to learn and understand and live together. This may be an opportunity that had taken centuries in order for us to be able to prepare, or to connect all these people reincarnating at the same time in the same place. Can you imagine all the work that may have taken from whoever is taking care of this connection? So taking advantage of this time to make peace, to enforce the love in our relationships, in order to free because love frees us, right? Once you love somebody, really love somebody, you could be in one universe and the other person in another universe. Jesus is universes ahead of us, and still his love links us all together, brings us all together, right? So once we learn to love, it doesn't matter where we are, how far apart we are, we will always be together. So creating these relationships, once we understand this, creating these relationships now, it's got to start. It's got to start now, right? The extreme of independence, if it can come out of this licentiousness. So what do we do to medicate this? We do what we have to do. We make sure that we carry out our duty, whatever it is today that we have to do, right? Extreme in savings, it can come from avarice. So what is the medication for that? We have charity, right? So all these imbalances of the soul that can bring diseases, that can take us out of the bringing our soul to the disease side, to the illness side. All these, some of these medications that Emmanuel brings us here, I guess, is food for thought. It's things that inspires us to put in practice. Some of it we're going to have to wait. Some of it we can start right now with us, starting with us, right? Loving ourselves more is understanding ourselves better, getting to know ourselves. We can start now. So there is another text from Emmanuel that he says, the sick of body and soul, they deserve understanding, they deserve kindness, support, and restoration. But if we don't take the medication, not even Jesus can save the sick who refuses to take the medicine. So if we keep running away, if we keep closing our mouths, right, for the medicine, it will not take any effect. We have to understand that sometimes life brings us to positions where we fight against. We think it's too painful. We don't want to see it. We don't want to look at it. We don't want to feel it. But sometimes that is exactly what will bring us to balance. He's going to talk about something. Emmanuel is going to talk about something that is very close to everybody's heart. Again, we talk about this ladder of evolution, and he's going to say, if you already have lit the light of higher knowledge in yourself, extend it into the shadow. And extend to the shadow is our inner shadow and our outer shadow. Nobody gathers talents from heaven to keep them in selfishness. We learn something new, and sometimes he's going to say here, do not forget the sick from our daily lives, the closest one to us. Our past foes, our past enemies surround us everywhere, and usually they tend to share the same roof. And this is another therapy that is used for us, that Spiritism explains and shows us, teaches us that at the end of the day, we will all have to learn to love each other. And the fastest way for us to learn how to do it is to have these enemies very close to us. Sometimes having them as our little kids, right? This baby that come to us, or if they come as grandkids, then I'm not a grandmother yet, but I imagine that if that happens, it would solve any problems that I had with any enemies in the past if they come as a kid or as a grandkid. But it will teach us, if this light has been brought to us, has been easing our hearts, put it in practice. Sometimes with the people we have the most difference with, brothers, sisters, parents, cousins, and it happens. We know it happens. If that feelings is still there, maybe it's time for this light to shine in this shadow too, right? Maybe it's time for a hello, how are you? Maybe it's time for, if I cannot talk to them because they are already in this, if I cannot call them, maybe they are in the spiritual dimension. We know now that we are all spirits. We can communicate. If I say, if I feel in my heart, they will feel it too. So I guess this is also some type of another type of therapy that Emmanuel brings us. And of course, this spiritism, the doctrine, is this beautiful therapy in itself. Right? Once we start studying, once we start deepening the knowledge, understanding as this promised consoler, and we're going to see that in the gospel, according to Spiritism, when Kardec brings us this topic, he's going to talk a lot about mediumship. So mediumship is a faculty, is a biological faculty. We all have it. We all have in us. It's been developing throughout time, depending on how each one of us lived their past lives. We developed different types of mediumship. Some of us are we can see, some of us see, some of us hear, some of us feel, some of us touch objects and feel the messages that have been inscribed in that object for past owners. We have all different types of mediumship, and it is in deep studied, classified by Kardec in the Medium's book, where he's going to bring all this. But as we evolve, we all have this type of faculty, right? We all have. There is no person without the epiphysis, which is a small organ, a small gland that we have in the base of our brain that will provide these connections of frequency, wavelength frequencies. So if we think about it, we are all inspired all the time. As Paul says, we are surrounded by a cloud of witnesses, meaning there are many spirits around us. Most of them are, I would say all of them are connected by who we are, right? What we vibrate. Some of them are familiar spirits that come to us. They want to help us. They love us. And one of them or some of them are mentors that sign off on us when we reincarnated. So they're like, no, this time it's gonna work. This time she's gonna do it right. I'll make sure that I'll help her. So we have these spirits and that offered, right? Because they loved us. They love us so much that they offer to help us. And if we are not, if we deviate too much from what we should do, they may get away for some time until we go through enough pain that we call them back, or sometimes it may take lifetimes. But we all have this faculty, we all have this skill. It's biological. It's been evolving. It will evolve with us. And I guess we are coming to this era of the spirit where we realize that we have it more than we thought. And this is awakening in a time where I guess technology helps, in an era where if we see the virus, we had this lecture from Dr. Décio Yandoli, who is a doctor in Brazil, when he talks about this virus that came in the 21st century, that in order to find it in our lungs, he said the basic X-ray will not find it. We need an MRI. We need better technology to find it in our lungs once we are infected. So it is asking. It's a disease that is asking for more technology, and at the same time, it has required for the whole entire world to stop. And the moment we stopped, we've been using technology to communicate. We've been using technology to exchange ideas, to process our studies, and some of us are using it in. We see the world, right, sharing research, sharing whatever they learn about care, about medicine, about medications, and what is working, what's not, what happens if you do this or not. And we are seeing the whole world sharing this ways of communications and sharing their results. And I guess this shows before, when Kardec was 160 years ago, Kardec would make questions to different mediums, and they would have the same answers in different parts, in different cities, parts of the world. They would send these letters to Kardec. He was centralizing in Paris, reading all these answers. And today, that would take time. Right? Today, all this is happening at the same time. We have the internet bringing all these messages together. So I guess we are going to become a lot, our intuition, our time of response has to be a lot faster than it was. I wouldn't say 160. I would say 10 years ago. Right? We are being forced to develop this skill. Having this body of knowledge like we have in the Spiritist doctrine is a huge step up front, right? We have a lot of answers that are already in a body, already in a very easy way for us to study. So if we take an advantage of this, for us is a huge. It's a duty and a responsibility, I guess, for all of us. Responsibility of doing it correctly, doing it with the intention of doing good, not just for curiosity, not just for, oh, let me see what's in there, but doing it in a responsible way of creating good, creating a better place, a better planet. Nature is already working in our favor. In 2 months, we are seeing clear water, we are seeing clean oceans, we are seeing a lot of the good effect of us slowing down. So nature is being very fast at healing itself. And we, I guess, will become also faster at healing ourselves if we use this soul therapist, and if we get to know ourselves as well, right? Taking care of our shadows, taking care of the hidden diseases. So mediumship is a faculty given to all without distinction. There is no question if you are spiritist or not, if you are rich or poor, if you are doesn't matter what language you speak. It happens since the beginning of humankind, right? But it brings light to all. The medium, he feels in himself the pain or the happiness that the spirit feels, and that shows them it shows that it really exists, right? And it's also an incentive for us to become better people, because what do you want around you? What kind of cloud of witness we want around us? Do we want to be tormented? Do we want to be suffering? Do we want to be to feel fear all the time? Or would we rather have some optimistic feel, some peace, some calm, some harmony to go through whatever life brings us in a more easy way, right? In a more enjoyable way. Life has already won, right? So the best lives are ahead of us. And having these good spirits helping us directly, in order to have them helping us directly, we need to bring these qualities in us, become really these qualities, feel these qualities in our hearts, transform our hearts in a way that will bring us. So it is in the soul that the primary source of all definitive medicinal sources resides. This is the message that Emmanuel brings us. So this was it. This was the study that I wanted to share with you. I'm so sorry I missed the time here. I stepped on over an hour here. But so Abigail, sorry.
Yeah, I just no problem with the timing because it was worth it. It was a lovely message. I particularly like the soul therapy, and I believe everybody enjoyed to be reminded of that. So we
Good.
thank you very much for a lovely study you share with us. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you, and have a wonderful day, my friend.
You too. Thanks.
So with that, my friends, we invite all of you to join us in a closing prayer, asking, kind Heavenly Father, thank you for the alerts we receive in these lessons today. And we ask Jesus to help all of us. Help us to apply the soul therapy so we can increase the value of the lessons in our life to protect ourselves, helping us to become healthier in our spirit. Give all of us the strength to overcome our difficulties, our shadows, the diseases within, and remind us every single day that is an opportunity for us to learn, to heal ourselves, taking actions, study, and cultivate the virtues we need to give us the healthy spirit that we in here today and ours. We pray for everyone that is feeling sick, that is feeling scared, that is feeling uncertain and disturbed. So may the light of Jesus embrace all our brothers and sisters, bring peace in the hearts and the consciousness, guidance for all the hearts that are out there. So all of us can become a little healthier today, and united, we'll practice more fraternity among us. We thank all the good spirits that is visiting our home in these moments, bringing the peace of Jesus to our family members, to our community. We pray for everyone that all of us can raise our thoughts and find Jesus and pray with him for a better days, for all of us to accept the invitation of goods for all of us. Thank you very much. So be it. Okay, my friends, thank you very much. It was a lovely message today. Would you like to remind all of us that we are going to start a new study group next Sunday? study of the gospel according to the Spiritism. So we invite everyone. 9:30 is open to everyone. And also on the 10th, every other Wednesday, we are going to start the book Missionary of Light. So it's open also for everyone. So it's a wonderful opportunity for us to study our doctrine and study how to apply this soul therapy in our lives. So all those studies will help us with that goal for us to be the best Christians we can be. So with that, we thank everyone and wish everybody a great day.